new clues about where Mueller's investigators are headed. Now, this is not a disclosure that Mueller's team wanted to make, the clues that we have, but in order to defend their new charges against Paul Manafort in court, Mueller prosecutor Andrew Weissmann laid out a key theory that the, quote, heart of Mueller's probe is still looking at a potentially illegal deal between Russia and Trump aides. Here's the line that is getting attention. Weissmann saying Manafort's alleged lies go, quote, very much to the heart of what the special counsel's office is investigating. And the New York Times reports those comments indicate Mueller's still open probe is pursuing the central question of whether there was some kind of deal between Russia and the Trump campaign. Now, this is important because it reveals a Mueller prosecutor under oath recently, not way back in the day, but recently saying this is the focus of the probe. We're also hearing more about a Mueller-related arrest, Maria Butina, the Russian, who pleaded guilty to acting as an undeclared Russian agent, now speaking out from prison to detail what happened when the FBI raided her home.
Was it pounding on the door?
Huge. Very loud.
Did they yell FBI or something?
Yeah, they told the FBI search warrant. I was completely shocked. So they pushed me in. They realized that I'm wearing an apron. Me baking banana bread. That was the picture.
That was the picture, a seemingly normal person baking banana bread. Butina is clearly using her words to pursue the same strategy that you see on your screen, which Roger Stone used through his dramatic video leak, trying to draw some sort of sympathy or even outrage over law enforcement tactics, which, according to experts, look pretty typical. Stone could face a ruling this week on whether he will be gagged, as Mueller's team has requested. Meanwhile, the parallel investigations in Congress gearing up with Democrats in charge. The House Intel Committee chair making it clear they will follow Trump's money, even if Mueller doesn't.
If the special counsel hasn't subpoenaed Deutsche Bank, he can't be doing much of a money laundering investigation. That red line has been enforced, whether by the Deputy Attorney General or by some other party at the Justice Department. If we had waited to do any of our investigative work for the Mueller investigation, we would have been waiting a year and a half. And we have a separate and independent and important responsibility, and that is to tell the country what happened.
What happened? I'm joined now by NYU law professor Melissa Murray and Shelby Holliday, who's been reporting on the Mueller probe from the start for the Wall Street Journal. Good evening.
Good evening.
What do you think of these clues, which a lot of legal experts have been parsing?
So there's a lot here, all of it speculation at this point, but lots to say about sanctions, lots to say about Crimea and the Ukraine, and lots to say about Russia trying to get out of the thumb of American sanctions.
And when you look at that, I mean, when he says at the heart, is that potential, overdoing it? Or is he saying basically, look, we care more about Manafort's lies, not just because we're tough and they have that reputation, but because we think he may be lying for ongoing aspects of a deal that could be ongoing collusion?
That seems to be the implication, that there's more to this than we initially thought, and this is an ongoing deal between Manafort and the Russian contacts in order to get some kind of push from the Trump administration on some of these aspects of the Russia relationship.
Well, and it's certainly ongoing because when you look at that transcript, there's still a lot of stuff that's blacked out. So things that we aren't allowed to know about, even though the government didn't necessarily want us to know about any of this. We got some hints, and it was not just about this Ukrainian peace plan, which to many is code word for lifting sanctions. But it was also about the sharing of polling data, and there was a long exchange back and forth about this polling data being so complicated and so complex and so valuable. And the special counsel is talking about how it was passed off to a man that the FBI has assessed to have ties with Russian intelligence. So there were a lot of themes, I guess, that were resurfaced in this transcript that we talk about in the media often, whether or not there is collusion. Does this go to the heart of collusion? Was it just a bunch of actors sort of unwittingly having contacts with Russians? I think this really reaffirmed for a lot of people that, wow, they're still looking at this core question, whether or not there was a quid pro quo to help the Trump campaign and relieve sanctions.
And whether parts of that attempted quid pro quo were continuing after the election, which gets you into high crimes. It gets you into what the president is doing as president, not just what happened in the years prior. I wonder what you think of what lawyers call the materiality here, the idea that, yes, they throw the book at everyone, but they had to prove basically that Paul Manafort's lies were at a higher level than just lies, than just incorrect.
No, so this is more than just sort of statements that are untrue or statements that are inadvertent and misleading. This is the fact that this is still ongoing, that so much of it has been redacted and so much of it is still being talked about means that this is going to the upper echelons. And I don't know where that leads. If it leads to person number one, who knows? But it goes deeper than maybe we even appreciated at first.
And I think for viewers, sometimes when we report on the little bits we get out of the Mueller probe, in a way they're less exciting and they're more carefully phrased than all of this other conversation. And yet they're so much more important because anyone can write or go on TV or go on the internet and say, oh, maybe there's collusion, or it feels like a lot of collusion-y things. This isn't that. This is one of their toughest prosecutors, Weissman, who I mentioned we're going to have more on later in the show, saying under oath that this is still going. And I put that to you in contrast to what you hear from some Trump defenders. And I think some knowledgeable legal folks have been saying this before this new piece, which was, well, if this is all they have on Roger Stone, they don't have him on conspiracy. They don't have him on something Russian, right? They only have him on obstruction. Walk us through how this goes seemingly in the other direction.
Well, so this is Robert Mueller. I was a Bay Area native for a long time. Robert Mueller has a great reputation in the Bay Area. He was the former U.S. attorney there. He's a very, very careful prosecutor, and Weissman is a very careful prosecutor. So building a case like this requires time. It's incremental. It's not just here's a smoking gun and we're done. So they're clearly carefully building a case, and there will be these little slivers. It doesn't seem like much at all, but again, it's sort of like impressionism. When you get up close, not sure what you're seeing. When you step back, aha.
Do you have a painting metaphor for this?
No, but I'll build on yours because it's excellent. When you're reading
she's at a really
through-
good school. We're just normal pundits
Yeah.
here. Impressionism,
I mean, a rap lyric
pointillism.
maybe will come to mind, but no, I think that's a really good analogy. And when you're reading through this transcript, you'll see that some of the information they got wasn't until late last year. So they are building this methodically.
Still going.
A lot of people knock this probe for being slow and long, but actually they're continuing to get information that proves to be very valuable. The last thing I would note that's really important in this transcript is the government's out there showing Paul Manafort not only lied about his contacts with the Trump administration, but he continues to lie about his contacts with Konstantin Kilimnik.
Right, which goes to the question of why do you continue to do that? I'm going to go to Gene Robinson. It also raises the question of whether Rudy Giuliani's style is more cubist.
Pontilism.
I don't know.
Giant circle.
Well, I don't know enough about painting to play on.
Or Jackson Pollock just throwing stuff at the wall.
Just throwing everything at
throwing
just
it all
throwing
at the wall.
I'll tell you what. If we have any viewers who know more about painting than us, or at least than Shelby and I, tweet in at The Beat with
Please,
Ari.
help.
What is the right painter to describe this probe? Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.